wonderful episode today. We are going to talk about why I decided to start Love Restored. So, just like many of you out here, I did not get any tips, any tools, any strategies on how to be in a successful relationship with myself, let alone a successful relationship with my partner. So today I have my beautiful special guest, Dr. Tonya Robertson, here to just let you know what it looks like for Black love and what it takes to be a part of what we call relationship goals Black through the eyes of a Black couple, because many of us want to be in successful relationships, right? And there really is no handbook. Just like we say, there's no handbook on how to raise children. There's really no handbook on how to be a part of a successful relationship, specifically in the Black community. And so when we have um, these pivotal people in our lives that we can actually call on to get information, to get structure, to get guidance from, I wanted you all to experience what I have already been experiencing. And so without further ado, I'm going to have Dr. Tonya Robertson really introduce herself. And then we're going to go ahead and talk about Black love, this series on Black love. So Dr. Tonya.
Hey, everyone. And thank you, Marshaun, for allowing me an opportunity to just share this space with you. It is amazing. So as she mentioned, I am Dr. Tonya Robertson. I am an award-winning employee onboarding improvement consultant, right? So I work with all of the business owners who have 25 or fewer employees, and I really help to alleviate the overwhelming stress from the often hated onboarding and training process. So it is a pleasure to be here today. I can't wait just to have some great conversation.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Tonya. Okay, listen, y'all, this is real talk about what it really takes to have a successful relationship in your home as a Black person with your partner. And so we're going to go through some of the easy questions first to get Dr. Tonya warmed up, but then we really go get down to the nitty gritty and the relationship, the real relationship, or I should say the real marriage and what it actually looks like specifically in the Black household. So let's go with some easy. How did you and your hubby meet?
All right, let's see. Now you're going to make me go way back now. Try not to date myself. So we met at a tutoring. So I had a part-time job, right? And so that part-time job, I was director of education for a private educational entity. And so I became aware of my now husband then. So at the time, he was in a relationship, but there was, like it was nothing. It was just it was a professional is how I knew him. I knew him as the man that paid his bills on time. He spoke when he came in to get his daughter, and his card worked. Many of our clients, their cards didn't work and they ain't pay on time. But I knew him. I was like, oh yeah, he pays on time. So anyway, again, like I said, y'all, he was in a relationship, and I respected that. Nothing fishy went on between us. It was professional. However, I ran back into him. We let's see, my son. I took my son to a barbershop not too far from that location. Years later, I want to say maybe about 5 or 6 years later, and we ran back into each other. And so we started talking, and he was like, yeah, he was trying to throw shots and everything, let me know that he was single. I'm like, yeah, I'm single too. And I always remember he has some stability. His card works. He paid on time. So I was like, okay, let's see what this is all about. So anyway, we exchanged numbers, and the rest was history.
Okay, you was over here killing me. like I need to know more about this car situation because you strongly keep pressing that he paid his bills on time and his car was working. So what made you like hone in on those two things? And you briefly mentioned something, but I want you to kind of go down a rabbit hole a little bit.
Okay, so my Southern vernacular is kicking in. So I meant card with the D on the end and not the word car, like as in, you drive. So yeah, so card meaning when he swiped the card, it worked. Okay. So that's what I meant. Yes, that's exactly what I meant.
Okay, yeah, you're right. You're okay. Southern vernacular. Okay, I'm with you. So his
Yes.
like credit card or debit
Yes,
card
the
was
credit card. Yes, the card.
girl hold his
Yes.
car. Okay, so his credit card, whatever, went through. So he paid his
Yes.
bills on time. Okay, now that makes total sense. Okay, perfect. Based off of where you were working at the time and why you two had met. Okay, so initially, if I heard you correctly, you were working someplace. He would come in and do what he needed to do. Y'all, and then he also was in a relationship. Years
Yes.
something happened where y'all lost contact, right?
Yep.
Years passed, you was taking your son into the barber shop, and then you guys ran back into each other, and he definitely let you know that he's single. You said you single. So now bring us
Mhm.
up to speed. What did it look like? Like did who asked for the number first? How did the dating happen? Like take us to the next step.
Okay, so what happened was he was in a network marketing company. So the way that he kind of tried to be smooth, it was a coffee company. I cannot remember it. So that was how like the reason why he was able to ask for my number because it was like, hey, I want to share some more information with you about this coffee business. So,
Go ahead. She interrupted me too. Go ahead and do what you need to do.
okay. I'm just narrow. Ooh, I'm sorry.
Now, didn't I just give her the speech? You at least you didn't even tell your baby, but I
I
just gave
did.
her the speech.
That's the good. Yeah, and my husband's supposed to have been on duty out there. I said, I'm getting ready to do a live recording. Keep your eyes on her. And here she comes. Like, oh my, I thought she was upstairs. Like, okay. So I'm over here trying to signal her, like, get out.
I totally saw you. I'm like, just gone, child. She did already interrupt me. Okay. Paulette, sorry about all this. Please, of course, edit this out of the audio. Sorry,
Oh
so sorry.
goodness. Not, I done gave the hind part to you, all of it. I'm sorry. Love you, Paulette. Okay.
Oh, I don't even know what we was talking about. No, you was telling me. Okay, let's start the segment over. You, what did I say? The dating. You was talking about how he got your number.
Yes. Yes. So you ready? All right. So yeah, so he was in a network marketing company, Marshaun. It was a coffee business, and I cannot remember the exact name of it. But anyway, that was his way in. So he asked for my number so that he could give me more information about, potentially either selling me some of this healthy coffee or maybe him, me being a part of his team or whatever. And I'm like, okay. So anyway, when we had our first phone call, nothing about coffee or any of that came up. I was like, okay, you tried it, but it
Yeah,
worked.
he pulled one on you.
Yes.
Okay. So he did the I don't know if men do the yeah, men do this. Yeah, they will find any way in. So he found his way in. I have this potential business. Let's have some conversation. So that's the question. Like, did he ever talk about coffee during the first one or not at all?
Yes. So the coffee did eventually come up, maybe like a few conversations later. And so, me being the very she-gotistical person that I am, I was like, okay, I need to kind of let him know that, he ain't dealing with no average sister. I'm a sister. I got it together. If I need to buy some coffee, a case of coffee, be on the team or whatever, like I do this thing called life, like so I bought some coffee and I signed up to be on his team.
Oh wow. Okay, so listen, he got you both ways. Okay, okay,
He
okay.
did. He did.
So while you were in the coffee business with him, were you guys dating officially then?
So yeah, so I didn't actually do any work beyond just joining the team and purchasing the coffee. It was more or less, in my opinion, just me doing him a favor, just to help him out, to just add another body count to his team. But I ain't do no work.
Oh, okay. So okay, okay. So yeah, he was just doing stuff. Okay, he wanted to keep you near. That was his way of keeping you near.
Yes, and so I supported him, went to some of the conferences and local events and everything with him, and showed my support.
Okay. All right, perfect. So during this time, were you two officially boyfriend and girlfriend, or were you just dating, kind of figuring things out?
I think we were official. It was just really something different about him versus all of the others that I've dated in the past, and which ties back into me stressing that the credit card works. He paid the bills on time because for me, financial stability is like everything to me. So to encounter a man that was financially stable, or at least I thought in the forefront was financially stable, not saying that he wasn't, but just showed signs, immediate signs of some type of financial stability, that was very attractive. And so from that point forward, I'd say we were official. He had shared that even though, he was in a relationship, like there was some interest that was never expressed, if you will, just out of respect of the current relationship that he was in. So I guess he knew that once the opportunity presented itself, it was like, listen, Linda, you better get with the program.
Not listen, Linda.
Yes, listen, Linda.
Listen, Linda. Okay, so you guys were dating. You were also in business together. And then what was the next step? Like, what made you decide, you, specifically
Uh-huh.
you, what made you decide to go to the next level? So please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming that he proposed to you at some point, like dating, all right, right?
I guess you could say that. So it was just, it's interesting because prior to meeting my husband, it was my son and I. So I'm very, I was very headstrong in that when I knew that I wanted something, like, as grandma say, if you want something done, you just kind of go do it. And so that was how it was with this relationship. So, meaning, once we met, and I was like, all the signs of what I wanted and innate were there, you know, it was like, okay, when are we going to do this? Like, I mean, he was in agreement, but, I, and he did propose to me. He did present me with the ring, but it was more so, I want to say I kind of drove it a little more or talked about it more than what he did, but he was on board, if you will. Because, my thinking was, listen, hey, what are we waiting on? I'm not that one that needs to, date forever and ever and ever. Like, I'm pretty certain of what I've encountered, and it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But what if it does work?
Okay, which brings me to the point of, actually, it made me think of a different question. So I'll go with that one, which is, was there any pushback or something said to you because you were in the driver's seat? And for those of you who are listening, I actually did the air quotes, right? Specifically when it comes to you bringing up the proposal. Not that you actually did it, but you bringing up the proposal and then he eventually proposed to you. Did you get any pushback from that?
When you used to push back, are you meaning like from him or like people in my circle
Well,
knowing
from
about
him,
it?
yeah, and people in your circle, like, I mean, why aren't you just waiting for him to propose to you, or like, why are you kind of pushing the issue?
So no, excuse me. No, no pushback at all. He was, like I said, on board. Just based on his experiences in the past, I was different from a different caliber of woman, based on what he had dealt with, and so was he. So no, no pushback at all. The only concern, and this was kind of sad but unsaid, was our age difference. So we are 15. There is a 15-year-old age gap between
Okay.
us.
Okay.
And so, that was kind of an unsaid thing, if you will.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, okay, that makes sense. And unsaid between the two of you, or you mean like outsiders?
Outsiders.
Okay,
Yes.
okay,
Outside.
okay.
Yes.
So you brought up before that he was different. He was different to you, and you were different to him based off of your past history and the
Uh-huh.
people that you attracted slash dated. So can you let us know what made him different?
Oh, well, the conversation was definitely a breath of fresh air. So my husband is extremely intellectual, and out of the box thinker. So our conversations just always went to a higher height and challenged the norm as far as just how I think in general. So I was, I'm that person. I like challenges. I like conversation. I like to analyze opinions. I always want to hear different sides of the story. So that's me. And so he did that, for me. He was able to give me fulfill that part of me, that curiosity, if you will. Yep. So
Okay.
that, and again, the girl, that financial stability. Yes, he had his own car, he had his own home, so he knew what it was like to pay bills. He had been in relationships before, so he was very much clear on what it was that he wanted this time around. He has children, so he was aware of, all the things that one would need to know about rearing children. Um, yeah, so all of that really captured um, my attention and piqued my interest. And I was like, let's do this.
Yeah, I wanted to circle back to that because a lot of people don't realize that that difference is what really, like you just mentioned, captures the other person's attention versus trying to be like everybody else, show up the way that everybody else is showing up based off of what society tells us to do and to be. He's
Uh-huh.
like, nah, I want to do this. And you're like, nah, I want to do this. And y'all happen to meet up because life let y'all meet up at the time that y'all met up and y'all came together and starting to build a life together. So, but before we move forward, we have to take a break here,
Uh,
right? So again, you ladies and gentlemen are listening to Love Restore on KCCR Cityscapes. I am your host, Marshaun Olaniyan. And if you have not shared Cityscapes Brownstone with anybody else in your family, then you need to do that because not only are you learning about what a true, successful Black relationship looks like, you are learning a plethora of other things here on the station. Not only, so we have beautiful music as well, right? Music on here, but there's a lot of educational stuff told by us, people that look like me and you here on the station. And so why not share the station with somebody that you like, know, and trust, that you also want to be able to get the information that you're also getting. But also, this is the year of the neighbor. So we're really trying to spread the word to all of the people out here that specifically look like us, and those who actually support people that look like us, that really have the best interest out for us to get to next level in our lives. And so I am here talking about the relational part of your life. But there are other people here on the platform that's talking about how to be better parents. Again, I brought up the music previously, but we're talking about finances. So there's a plethora of other areas of people here on the station that's bringing you the information that you need in order to catapult your life to the next level. So without further ado, we're going to get back into the episode with Dr. Tonya. So, Doc, you just mentioned, we talked about your how you guys met as well as your dating relationship. So now let's get into the real talk of your marriage, because this is a part of the series Black Love Diaries, Real Talk on Relationships. And so I didn't mention the title earlier, so I want to make sure that I plugged it there. So marriage, right?
Yes.
What are your beliefs? And especially if you two have talked, but if you have not talked about specific your beliefs on what a successful Black marriage looks like, then please share with us here today. What is your thoughts about it? However, if you two have discussed this, then what are y'all thoughts about what a successful marriage in general, but specifically to the Black community looks like?
Ooh, I'd say that is an interesting question. Because of two words that you use when you say it looks like. Um, we've, I feel like we've struggled with that to a degree, because there were times when we've tried to fit the mold of kind of what it should look like, air quote. And then there are times when we just kind of had to be what we were when we were. There were those times. So I don't exactly have an answer. And I don't have an answer because going into the marriage and just kind of let me say this, reflecting back now that, we are 12 years into this, many parts of our relationship of how we came together was more so via trauma bond. So, as we've both grown and evolved, many of the components of our trauma bonding, have clashed as we both have kind of sought out our own ways of healing. And so in clashing, that has impacted the relationship in different ways, some good, some bad. So, like now I'd say we're in a space now of just kind of trying to relearn each other as we have, are figuring out our own self, if you will. And I may have went far to the right or far to the left, but course correct me if you need to.
No, I think what you said is actually important, because a lot of people believe that they are not a success because they don't look like, or their marriage doesn't look like what they believe somebody else's looks like. Mm-hmm. And so that's actually important that you don't have the answer, because as I mentioned earlier, there really isn't an actual handbook. And especially for our community, not many of us really come from or have witnessed successful, air quotes, right? Successful Black relationships. And so we're trying to change that mold as each generation knows more, we understand more, we can apply more, do better, right? But I think that it's also important to not mold yourself and that what it should look like thing. Don't put yourself in a box, because that's when you get into trouble, right? And that is where you have to define what you want your own marriage to be and to look like. So the two of you coming together, and you just mentioned that the two of you came together by a lot of it was trauma bonds, and now you're relearning one another. And which brings me to another point, because one of my previous guests said that it took her, She's now been married 14 years. It took her 7 years, so basically half the marriage, for them to really figure out, excuse me, how to show up and be different with each other so they can be on the road of being a successful Black marriage. Right. And so, because of the same stuff that I just mentioned. And so I'm wondering, it sounds like roughly, no, actually, no, let me back up. Let me ask the question. When did you two start trying to relearn each other? When did it start? Was it this year or last year? It was halfway in between your marriage. I'm just curious to know when it actually started. The
Yeah,
relearning process.
it was last year. I think last year was the toughest year for us. I think that's when, everything just kind of came to a head and we were at the crossroads where sometimes many couples get at was like, what are we going to do? Are we going to stay together? Are we going to not be together? Or are we going to stay committed to figuring out how to make this work? And so that's when we decided, yes, let's figure out what we need to do to try to make this work, to see if, it's still an option or whatever. And so that's what I really appreciate about him, his willingness to always, try, give it a try.
Okay, I'm curious because you brought this up. You said it was last year, and so did you two notice that there was something that maybe you haven't addressed when COVID happened? And the reason why I'm asking that is because I know that a lot of people didn't make it
Hmm.
since COVID, right? When they're locked up with, I hate to say locked up, but when the world shut down and a lot of people had or was forced to now be around their spouse, when every and anything could have taken you away from actually facing one another, whether it was you traveling all the time or for work or for fun or just being out of the house because you were hanging out with friends or family, not necessarily being in each other's space all the time, in each other's face. And so did any of that come to a head because of COVID?
I think so. So, I mean, a lot, just looking back, COVID, I feel like just kind of maybe magnified it all because we had to be in each other's space, as you mentioned. We had to see the ugly part of each other every day, all day. And and so, that magnified everything else because, you start looking at each other like, that ain't the person I married. And then, we walking around looking the same every day. We don't have to dress up. I got my bonnet on and my night rag on my my head all day long with my stretch pants and the old t-shirt, old holy t-shirt. And it was just that COVID. And then as we're growing through our own relationship, pains of me maturing, because keep in mind, I'm younger, 15 years younger, so there was still some maturing that I had to do, even though, I mean, most say I have an old soul, but there was still some maturing there. And then, we had a daughter shortly, a few years after we got married. So, introducing a child into the relationship. And so just that fire and desire just started to burn out slowly. And then to add to that, because we actually talked about this not too long ago, him and I, the chase. So, right, he used to, girl, when I say he used to chase me and do all the things, right? He did that. Like he would show up at my door. This was one that topped the cake. And I was like, yes, I know he the one. I knew I was right. It's my time, God. Yes. Girl, he showed up at my door randomly with a goldfish in the bowl, right? With the water, little goldfish swimming around, with a little note card and a poem on it. And it was said something like, there are other fish in the sea, but you're the only fish for me. Something like that with the goldfish. And I was like, oh my God, like I had never ever. I'm like, oh yeah, 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 you going, yes. So he used to do like really kind, thoughtful things like that on a consistent basis. So, as time went on, that chase just kind of declined. And I'm like, wait a minute, like what's happening here? So, in my mind, I'm thinking that I'm associating that with the lack of interest in the relationship. And all the questions began. Well, is he attracted to me anymore? Well, is there someone else? Um, all of those questions began to arise. And so, as a result of that, then my behavior changed. And so, you have that and all the other things, and then COVID, and then you have the child, and um, two people that, again, we don't have a blueprint or a guidebook. So we're both really just trying to figure it out. Um, and there you have it.
Yeah, I totally get it and definitely understand, at least to a certain degree. And I think that a lot of people suffer from the chase when the chase goes away, and especially something like COVID forcefully shutting down the world. Um, a lot of things had to come to a literal stop, a literal stop. And so we're getting ready to wrap it up. And I want to ask you really quickly, what would you tell somebody else who really focuses on like a younger couple or someone that's just coming together, who is focusing on what their relationship should be, or even their marriage, what should their marriage should be? If they're focusing on that, what would your advice be to them?
I'd say do not focus on that. I'd say create the marriage that works for the two of you. So that means coming together. That looks like lots of communication. That looks like lots of, um, showing respect. That means that, creating a culture and your values for your relationship, for your household, for your family. That looks like, weekly check in meetings. No different from, how you show up and you give 100% to your job or all the other obligations that you, are associated with. That's what that looks like. Having the same mindset towards your marriage, because there is a business component to it as well. Because yeah, I love my husband, but some days we got to push past that. Love don't look so lovey, and so it's a matter of just kind of leaning on other things, but also keeping in mind that there's the business part to the relationship. So create what works for the two of you, and just make sure that you're connecting and meeting and talking and just spending time with one another.
Oh, Dr. Tanya, you have said a mouthful, and I can't even go into it. So we absolutely, either one or two things gonna happen. We're gonna have to have a part two with you,
Okay.
or we're gonna have you and your hubby on here to go a little bit deeper, because I think that we're literally just scraping the top of the iceberg. And I want to just literally, I just want to go a little bit deeper, because you already said a whole mouthful in those, what, 30, 40 seconds that you was just speaking. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us for these previous 30 minutes, because it actually makes a difference in the way that you look at your relationship and at the way that you look at your marriage, how you going to show up, and the things that you should be expecting. Again, air quotes, if you are listening to this, because it's different for each person. Again, I am your host, Marshaun Olaniyan. You are listening to Love Restore on KCCR Cityscapes. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you on the next episode.